attempting this trend with your Ozempic butt, right? And so it's her dancing. But as you can tell, if you look at her legs and just her body, she is incredibly thin. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today I want to talk about a little bit more about the Ozempic influencer era that we're kind of in now and the implications that that has just on kind of everyday life and the people that are also on social media and how that is affecting them. Now, before we get into the video and the person that we're going to be talking about, I want to make it clear that this video is not meant to attack them. I hope that no one, which I don't think you guys will, but I hope no one goes to their social medias and tries to find them and tries to write hateful comments or anything like that. If you have something that you want to say, please, of course, you can leave it down in the comment section here, but please don't go and try and find these people and leave comments about them. With that being said, today we are going to be talking about Amy Kane. Now, Amy Kane, or also known as Amy and Half on social media, has garnered quite the large following based on her kind of sharing her journey of someone that is on Ozempic or a GLP-1 medication and kind of talking about those things that she's going through. Now, she actually garnered a lot of popularity because she was on that town hall that Oprah did talking about GLP-1s, and she did a whole kind of expose talking about her. So let's watch that. Before we go any further, I just want to say huge thank you to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Recently, I shared this on my podcast, but I've been fixing up some previous tax issues that I had to deal with. And once I had got it all kind of figured out, I started getting inundated with an unbelievable amount of spam calls every single day, multiple times a day, from these companies that claimed that they could make all the problems disappear. And it got to a point where literally I would not answer my phone no matter what. I didn't even want to see when my phone was ringing. It gave me so much stress and anxiety and I hated it. And so I'm super thankful for Aura for being here to help me out. I know a lot of you deal with similar situations because we're always kind of giving our information to companies, small and big, and they're using that information against us. Our data can be compromised, leading to spam, identity theft, and even fraud. So many businesses collect our data and then they don't do anything to protect it. And so that's why I use today's sponsor, Aura. Aura alerts me when my data has been part of a breach or leaked on the dark web. I get fraud alerts if anyone tries to use that data to access my credit or bank accounts. My info is removed from data broker websites so I get less spam. I also get transaction monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, parental controls, and identity theft insurance all in one app. Now I'm not worried about dealing with any agency or company because I have Aura. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I definitely recommend giving Aura a try. They're actually offering a 2-week free subscription. If that's something that you want to do, there's going to be a link down in the description. Thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into it. So we're just going to watch a small clip from this. It's about a little bit over a minute long and just kind of talking about her journey and a little bit about herself.
For many users of the medications, with a new body comes an entirely new outlook on life.
I have been struggling with my weight for as long as I can possibly remember. I mean, I remember feeling like my relationship with food was different than for a lot of people, starting at the age of 5 years old, 10 years old.
For Amy Kane, navigating her weight loss has been a lifelong problem. The full-time mom grappling with the constant shame and anxiety she felt over her appearance.
I would say my highest number was probably around 300 pounds. I didn't look at myself in the mirror very often. I didn't step on the scale because I didn't want to know.
And I think that when it comes to these stories, and this is what I've always said, when it comes to having an incredible weight loss transformation, and if you use Ozempic, if you use a weight loss surgery, or you do it quote unquote naturally or without those methods, I understand why people do these things and why they want to take these steps, because a lot of us have had very similar experiences. And so I understand, and that's why it's frustrating whenever I talk about the implications or the quote unquote negative side effects of these medications or whatever. It's like people see me as saying that if you use these, you're a bad person or that you're lazy. It has nothing to do with that, right? Like, I understand why someone would want to use these medications or what might, pull them to want to do that. And so I just want to make it clear, there's no judgment here of like, if you want to use this medication.
I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, around 13 years old. And the one thing we know about diseases like that is that it's very, very challenging to lose weight. I think I got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to be able to lose weight. So I sort of I said, screw it. I gave up. I then was diagnosed with diabetes.
Amy says that was her breaking point. She completely overhauled her diet and lifestyle, losing about 60 pounds on her own.
And that's really cool, right? Being able to lose 60 pounds on your own before she ended up taking these GLP-1 medications. I think that should be celebrated, right? And it's always, I'm just going to be fully transparent here. Whenever it is brought up that there's PCOS, right? Someone is dealing with that. It's always hard because obviously I'm a dude. That's not something I've ever dealt with. It's not something I ever will deal with. And so I always feel a little strange talking about this because I don't want to sit here and say PCOS, it makes it impossible to lose weight. But I do understand that it does make it more difficult. But whenever PCOS is brought up, it feels like if you are at all critical about anything, especially if you're a guy, you are immediately written off as like just someone that's trying to be mean and trying to write off someone's experience. And so I'm genuinely curious. I know that there's a lot of ladies that watch these videos. If you're someone that has struggled with PCOS, or you know someone that has struggled with PCOS, like what is your thoughts about that? Because the way that I see it, PCOS definitely makes it more difficult, but I don't think that it makes it impossible. And a lot of times, this is just how I feel like PCOS is used as a shield away from criticism. And it's like, well, it was impossible for me to do it because I had this, right? And that's just something that I'm not a huge fan of, I guess is the best way to put it.
But after reaching a plateau in the weight loss, an endocrinologist suggested she try Mounjaro.
This medication has saved my life. And I don't just mean physically, but emotionally in a lot of ways. I think the reason this medication was so effective for me is because I committed to completely overhauling my lifestyle and my diet and working on my mental health. It felt impossible for me to do this before. This medication allowed it to feel possible.
And so that's, I think, a really important part, right? Because yes, it felt impossible, but she was obviously able to lose the 60 pounds without using these medications. And this medication made it, they talk a lot about the food noise and how that can help her. And so again, I'm not saying that she's sitting here not telling the truth, but I think that it's interesting and it's important to get a little bit of this backstory before we talk about in my opinion, a little bit more controversial things that are going on.
Today, after losing more than 160 pounds in all, Amy says she feels like an entirely different person.
My life has done a 180. I was a mom that struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety really, really bad. And I somehow, over this past year, have sort of turned my life around. Yes, the medication helped, but I also put in a lot of work, like a lot of work to have a better relationship with my kids, to have a better relationship with my husband, to have a better relationship with myself.
Now
And so I don't disagree with what she's saying there. And I think it's important, and something that as I've been in this scene for over 10 years, I do get a little frustrated because I feel like a lot of times when we talk about weight loss, it's marketed as this panacea that's going to solve everything. But a lot of times when people lose weight, myself included, and it seems like Amy, you overhaul a lot of parts of your life. And through that overhaul process, you start to believe in yourself and you start to notice that you can do things that you didn't think that you could do. So this negative self-talk that maybe has been going on in your head for so long, right? It starts to slow down a little bit. It starts to diminish a little bit because that self-talk doesn't make any more sense now because you are making this progress. You're doing these things that you didn't think it was possible, right? So it all works in conjunction. The weight loss absolutely, and it would be silly for me to say has no effect on it. Of course it does, right? But it is a small part of a bigger picture that I feel like a lot of times, and I absolutely have been a victim of this, or I perpetuated this, especially in my earlier videos, because I think it was something that I didn't fully understand yet. And it took me years post weight loss and maintaining to really understand why I've changed so much as a person. And a big part of it was the weight loss, but it was believing in myself, noticing that I can make these changes and I could see these crazy results, right? And so that's Amy, and that's who we're going to be talking about today. So why are we even making this video? The thing that got me really interested was actually an Instagram post by Amy that was sent to me a few times. And this is the Instagram post right here. We obviously can't play the audio, but it says attempting this trend with your Ozempic butt, right? And so it's her dancing. But as you can tell, if you look at her legs and just her body, she is incredibly thin in this video. And it was jarring for me to see that as someone that's basically promoting Ozempic, that has lost a significant amount of weight, but in my opinion is incredibly thin and is continuing to not just take Ozempic, but also market Ozempic basically to other people. And then on top of that, Amy is also marketing herself as a weight loss coach and helping other people lose weight. And I feel like there's just a lot to unpack there. So the first thing is, if we go to the comments of this post, which you can't click on it on this page for whatever reason, but this is the same post. These are some of the comments, and it was jarring, and it was interesting to read the reactions, right? So, Ozempic got everyone out here on chemo and loving it, right? Literally how I looked with my ED, bro. No one can convince me that this is healthy for you. I don't care, right? And she responds to these messages, and I think the responses are also very telling of the current situation how Amy is feeling, in my opinion, right? So she responds, as someone who has had every ED under the sun, these comments are so vile. I, for the first time in my life, no longer have an ED and have a healthy relationship with food. This is my body type now after losing 160 pounds. Now, I just want to make it clear that, like, yeah, your body can look a little, I don't want to sound mean, a little strange after losing a lot of weight, loose skin. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I have it as well, right? So there can be times where people see it and they're like, oh, that's disgusting. But I'm sorry, but this is, in my opinion, going too far. It feels like there is no weight left on that body. There's no fat left on that body. And we do need a certain amount of fat, right, to exist and to be healthy. And what scares me about this is that it seems that she doesn't see it. And I want to make this clear. I don't blame her per se, because this is incredibly common for those of us that have a significant amount of weight to lose. It is incredibly hard to know when to stop. There was a comment on here that I thought was really interesting. I couldn't find it again, but it was talking about Ozempic blindness is the same thing as eyebrow blindness from back in the early 2000s when a lot of the women had the pencil thin eyebrows, and we look back on that, we're like, what the hell was going on? Like, how did people think that looked good, right? It's the same thing, and it's very, very common because for so long in your life, you've been overweight, you're unhappy with your size. You feel like if I just lose weight, I will be happy. That is the thing I need to do. And then you start losing weight. You start making weight loss your identity. Everyone starts congratulating you on the fact that you lost weight. You feel like the more weight I lose, the more congratulations I get, the more people are excited with me, the more praise I get, right? But then you get to a point where eventually you have to stop losing weight. You can only lose weight for so long until you basically disappear. And that's a really hard place to be because you do not know where to go. It's really hard to go from basically, for me, it was like basically eating anything I wanted, didn't really care, to then I personally ended up being too restrictive, right? And then I had to deal with that. I dealt with some EDs, right? BED. I dealt with things myself, and it took a lot of work, and it took years and years and years to figure this stuff out. And that's really common, and that's fine. But for me, I'm really lucky that I didn't have a huge following, right? And I certainly was not marketing myself as a coach at that point either. And that's where the problem is for me. And I just want to make it clear, like, so many of these comments are talking about this, right? You are 100% sick and in denial. I can tell by the way you reply to every comment stating their concern for you. Your legs lack muscle. You are incredibly sad to look at. Stop taking your Ozempic and let your body be. You're a prisoner to it, right? From one extreme to the other. So a lot of people are noticing this, but it's very interesting seeing the difference in the comments that you'll see on Instagram Reels. And if you go to her TikTok, like basically any TikTok you look at, the comments are almost all very, very positive. We look at this TikTok right here. So it says, wait until you stop taking Ozempic, right? And has a photo of her before. And then it ends up showing, her kind of walking towards the camera, and it says, okay. Now, when I saw that, I was like, oh, so it seems that maybe she's stopped taking Ozempic and this is kind of where she's sitting, right? But again, if we look at the comments, positive, right? Legs for days. So glad you're living how you're supposed to. What's the leg routine? I must know. The definition is impressive. I know how much of a struggle it took, but you look so good. All very, very positive. But when I saw that, right? So when I saw that first TikTok where it said, oh, I'm no longer on, basically it feels like it's saying I'm no longer on Ozempic, right? Because wait until you stop taking Ozempic. Okay, right? So she's, in my mind, that makes it seem like she is no longer taking it. Now, this is a video from 4 days ago, right? So if we go to her TikTok right here, this is a video from 21 hours ago, and it shows her still taking Ozempic. So I don't really understand, to be honest, if she, it seems like she's definitely still taking it, right? And so she is still on this medication. And so I don't really know if that other TikTok was her saying that she's on a maintenance dose, but looking at some of her comments, she's talked about, and people have asked her how long it took her. She said she lost about 160 pounds in 14 months, and then she has been maintaining for 5 months. Now, I'm not going to be the one that's like, time gating when people can do things, but that is still very, very, very early in your journey. And so I, as someone that has been doing this for a long time, that's a red flag for me, for someone to be making it seem like they are an authority on these types of things. And especially when we go into the fact that she is profiting off this to an extent, as well as coaching other people on how to lose weight, I'm assuming with Ozempic. So if we go to her website, quietthenoise.co, this is her, right? It says Quiet the Noise, weight loss coaching, food noise healing, GLP-1 support. And then if you click on this menu right here, it says work with me. And basically it says one-on-one private sessions. I offer 45-minute private sessions online or by the phone. So if you click on Let's Connect, you basically have to enter your information, and there's a message that you can fill out, but there's really not much more information. But if we go to the menu and we click on the About, it says About Me, right? Hi, I'm so glad that you're here. I have finally conquered my lifelong battle with my weight and food noise. I want to help you do the same. I strongly believe that the mental work it takes to achieve success is just as important as the physical aspect. I have my Master of Social Work degree and specialize in the field of addictions and disordered eating. I can't wait to work with you. And so that's basically the extent of the information that you can find on what this coaching really entails. Another TikTok that was just kind of strange to see is, this is like, there's this trend where people will do like, oh, I'm making this salad, and then there was like it was a candy one for a while that was like a really popular trend on TikTok, where people would bring different candies. And so what she's doing here is a GLP-1 salad, and all of the information that she's sharing, it's a bunch of different medications and vitamins and multivitamins and just a bunch of different things that she's adding to this salad for a GLP-1 salad, right? And so basically, if you look at this, it's like, it's basically kind of marketing these different medications, and a lot of people are curious as to what these medications are, right? So I've been following you for a while, and I've been on Ozempic. Can you give a detailed videos on those supplements and digestive stuff, right? This is great. Can you explain what each of these are for? And then if you end up going to her Amazon page, if you look here, a lot of the things that she mentions are linked here. And if you don't know, she earns commissions on these, right? So anyone that's an Amazon affiliate, you earn money on these suggestions, right? And so again, I just think that that is obviously a conflict of interest, and it should, at the very least, people on TikTok and online need to be very weary of any influencer that, again, even if you look up to them, if they have a code, if they're selling something, and this goes for me as well, like, just understand that if you end up buying those things, like, hopefully you understand that a big part of why you want to get it is because you want to support the person, not because you think that this product is going to be the best thing for you. Again, I want to make it very clear, there is nothing wrong with having these different affiliations or anything like that, right? But it's just on you as a consumer. Please understand that it's very important, and you should definitely, everything that you see someone promote, take it with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, what I want to make very clear is I have nothing against Amy, but I have been in this for a long time. It has been 10 years, right, that I've had the weight off, even longer now, at 11 years. And it's been a journey. And I understand the processes that you have to go through. And I fully understand that Amy is at the very beginning of her journey. And I find it dangerous. If it's meant to be or not, I still find it dangerous when someone that is so new on their journey is out here promoting themselves as a professional and is saying that they have the answers for other people and then profiting off of that. I do think that that is slightly dangerous, and I feel it's something that should be talked about more, because I think when people see influencers, they're just so used to, and we talked about this in a recent video, they're so used to them promoting things that once it starts kind of getting into basically promoting pharmaceuticals and other things like that, we have become so numb to it that it is just normal, and you don't really think about what is actually happening, right? There are whole pages that are dedicated to promoting these drugs and then selling that to their audience. And I feel like it's very important that we like nip this in the bud as early as physically possible, because I do think that that is a problem, because these are very serious medications that do have side effects that should be mentioned at every turn, right? But again, that's just how I feel. I would love to know what y'all think down in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.